Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soft Stories. I'm Stratton, and this is Pepper, and today we are going to be finishing our reading of Beowulf the Warrior, this adaptation by Ian Serralier, with illustrations by Mark Severin. When last we left Beowulf, he had succeeded in vanquishing not only Grendel, but the beast known only in these stories as Grendel's mother. He had returned whence he came, leaving the Danes behind, safer, happier, and with the promise of a long and fruitful relationship between their peoples. It is there that we pick up the story with our third part, entitled here, The Fire Dragon. After Hygelac was dead, and Heardred had been slain, then Beowulf, strong in valour as in wisdom, mightiest yet mildest of men, for 50 years reigned over his people in peace and prosperity, unchallenged. From youth of fighting and heroic deeds, quietly he journeyed toward the tomb, until, old at last like a mighty oak in winter, flaunting no longer her green midsummer glory, but stripped and bare, yet splendid still, he hoped to die in peace. But vainly. You shall hear how there came a dragon to confound his quiet, flying by night, scorching the dark on wings of fire. There was a headland that towered above the sea, and upon it a burial mound, blocked with barriers and turreted with rock, that none might enter. None, save the dragon who dwelt there, lone guardian of a treasure no man had seen. One night, as he lay within, coiled in slumber, boldly, cunningly crept a stranger. From the dim vault blazed upon him a wonder of wealth, jeweled flagons, bowls graven with weird imagery, golden goblets, whose shine the long centuries had not tarnished. From many a battered helmet the boar's head glaring, and thick with rust the iron-ringed mailcoat, whispering of old wars, of the clashing of shield and the bite of the flashing sword. One goblet he stole, and a heap of rings, and stealthily made off. Then the dragon, twilight foe, fiery flyer in darkness, awoke. Tricked of his treasure, angrily he prowled over the headland, sniffing the ground, devouring the track of his enemy. but none could he find. At nightfall, when the day star was darkened, the candle of the world snuffed out, revengeful, riotous with rage, he went forth in flame, breathing out ruin, snorting hurricane. Villages he burnt, he laid waste the land. The palace of Beowulf, proud gift throne of his people, he swamped in waves of fire. Oh, terrible was the king's anger, in his heart the wrathful embers flared. He commanded an iron shield to be made, for well he knew that linden wood must warp and shrivel in heat. With 11 chosen warriors he marched to the dragon's den, the mound on the headland beside the surging sea. Upon a hillock he sat and waited for the dragon, while over his troubled mind mistily moved as in a mirror his youth and many deeds of glory. Himself, a mere boy, plunging sword in hand giddily to battle with monster whales, with Grendel grappling to the death, under the joyless water upon Grendel's mother, wheeling the giant's blade, breaking her bone rings, hacking through her neck, and now blotting all else. Death, in shape of dragon in the mound bestirring, pressing relentless upon him in clouds of fire, dissolving all the dream of his life. Unafraid, he waited, yet, as never before, with no blaze of battle in his soul, nor blood yearning, nor champing of steed, nor delirious charge of chariot wheels, only a deep brooding sadness as he pondered upon death. Then for the last time he spoke to his warriors, greeting them man by man. Dearest comrades, I am ready now. Let the dragon face me if he dare. I wish I could fight him with my hands as I fought Grendel. But his breath is fire, all swollen with poisonous blasts, and I need my battle steel, my stout mailcoat, and thick-plated shield. You, my warriors, my chosen ones, whose dancing eyes are like spear points, or the swoop of the hawk on his prey, hold back. Stand patient on the headland and watch. This fight is none of yours. No man can play the hero, pit his might against the monster. No man but myself. I shall not yield an inch. My courage, surely, shall kill and win the treasure, unless fate, whose word is final, to whom, in obedience unquestioned, even kings must bow, shall deal me death. Then the hero, stern under his gleaming helmet, with his stout mailcoat and thick-plated shield, strode out to meet his foe. Toward the mound he moved, the rock rampart cleft with an arch of stone. close by, strongly from the earth gushed out a stream, whose wash boiled to fury in the dragon's furnace beneath. Dropping to the steamy ground, so scalding fierce, so hissing hot that Beowulf could tread no further, he halted. In a loud voice he shouted his battle cry. Then the dragon awoke. Crackling, he uncurled. Like the clash of shield upon shield, he uncoiled his scaly length. With thunder-clapping sound, he twisted through each arch, spitting flame. He blackened the rampart. He scorched and burnt the grass, as round and round madly he bounded upon the bruised ground. Then Beowulf, wreathed in smoke and fire, ran upon the dragon. Shielded, brandishing his sword, he struck him mightily. The keen edge bit on the scales, and glanced aside, but roused his dreadful wrath. Uprearing, he flapped wide his monstrous wings, fanning the blaze tenfold like a forest fire, tree ravenous, devouring all in its path. He bore down on the pygmy king, till Beowulf, choked in that frenzy of smoke and flame, scarce could breathe. He stumbled. He gasped for air. Then the warriors, his friends on the headland, chieftains' sons, whom he himself had chosen, when they saw their king sore pressed, his strength waning, forsook him. In terror for their lives, they took to the woods, all but Wiglaf, close kinsman of the king, whose spirit, fashioned in stronger mould, cried out that his master should thus suffer. His hand seized the shield, the frail linden wood. He drew his sword, proud heirloom of his fathers, and called to his comrades, "Stay! Fellow warriors, the king needs us, now as never before. Is this the time to desert him? Have you forgotten the gifts he gave us in the mead hall when we feasted together? The gold rings, the shields, and flashing swords. Have you forgotten that solemnly we swore to protect him from peril? Us alone he chose for this venture, named us of all his spearmen the bravest. Turn now, O my comrades, and fight." But they shrank from his chiding, and cringed among the trees. Then cried he in torment of soul, "Shame upon you! Do your coward hearts knock at your ribs so loud you cannot hear me? Or do you not wish to hear? Is your master no more to you than carcass meat for monsters? I'd rather my body were burnt to a cinder than stand by to see him slain. For him be my hand now, my helmet, my sword, my mailcoat, all for him." And he called into the smoke and fire, "Beloved king, whose name is known in the farthest corners of the earth, wherever the ocean laps the windy shore and the wave-worn headland, remember the boast of your youth, never to yield, never to fail in striving. Wake the old might of your hands." He plunged into the smoke until he stood where he loved best to be, by his master's side. And here we have that moment where Wiglaf, kinsman of the great king, charges into battle to defend Beowulf against the writhing serpent, the dragon, as it is wreathed in flame and smoke and darkness, like the end of the world. In the whiplash and flogging of flame, steadfast together they fought. Between the king and the fiery dragon he thrust his linden shield. The lightning licked it, shrivelling it up like shavings thrown to the fire. Then might Wiglaf have perished, but Beowulf roused him under his iron shield, and rousing his old might, raised high the sword and struck the dragon. Too strong was the hand. The steel was shivered to pieces. With savage haste the dragon, old twilight foe, in whirlwind conflagration rushed upon him. Deep into his neck he plunged his spiked teeth. The lifeblood spurted, welled red over his armor. Then Wiglaf, as love for his lord flashed into rage, unshielded, sprang at the beast. Into that fiery furnace he thrust his sword, with scorched fingers drove it under the scales, home to the hilt. And the dragon fell back, his breathing laboured, the fire puffs ponderous and slow. Then Beowulf, master of his waning might, drew from his mailcoat his keen battle knife. Locked in combat with the foe, he struck at the heart. So smiting, with Wiglaf he felled him. Together they quenched the fire, together beat out his loathsome life. O valiant, valiant knight, who at king's peril never did falter, such should a warrior strive to be. 'Twas the last victory that fell to the king, the last of his works in this world. As faint from fighting he sank down by the wall, his wound began to swelter and swell. The pestilent poison climbed to the heart. Then Wiglaf ran for water. Unloosing the helmet, he bathed the blood from his face and roused him from the swoon. His master, his beloved king, who far gone in weariness with distant eyes gazed upon Wiglaf, well knowing his mortal day was ended, and death very near. Softly he spoke. No son have I to succeed me, none to inherit this armor of mine, scarred with 1,000 battles. Now as I lie dying here under the arch that giants long ago hewed from the white cliff, these thoughts bring me comfort. Full 50 winters have I governed my people, guided and guarded them. Never in the wide world was there king or warrior who could match me in the field, or make me quake with fear. Blameless my life has been. No blood of kinsman have I shed, nor sworn falsely, nor played the traitor. The rule ruler of men can charge me with no crime. But my wound grows cold. Go quickly, dear Wiglaf, under the grey stone, to the treasure within. Now the dragon is dead. Despoil him. Bring me banquet of jewels to feast my hungry eyes. Quickly, before I die. All haste, Wiglaf obeyed his wounded king. Stooping under the arch, he entered the mound, the dragon's grim lair. Therein what wonder of wealth he saw! Gold glittering in the darkness, lavish litter of goblets, dim now and lustreless. Their proud plating perished. Jewels, like jungle eyes from the dim wall, sparkling. Many a rusty helmet and bracelet of twisted gold, over all in drooping folds suspended. A gold banner, most cunningly sewn, rarest of prizes, radiant with light. Then Wiglaf loaded his lap with treasure, with flagons and goblets, and, seizing the banner, bright beacon for his path, in headlong haste brought them to the king. But Beowulf had swooned away. Almost had death, covetous for the hero's soul, stolen him hence. When Wiglaf dashed water in his face and woke him. Wearily the aged eyes, from crowding shadows peering, fastened on the gold. For the last time, haltingly, in deep anguish, the hero spoke. Thanks be to God, the King of glory, that he granted before death day this treasure for my people. The price of it? An old man's life. 'Tis fair exchange. You, Wiglaf, must share it among them, for I shall be gone. Share it according to their need. One final word. When I am dead, stack high about my body the funeral fires, and bid my warriors to build upon my ashes, yonder, on the whale's headland, towering high to heaven, a mighty mound. It shall be named the Mound of Beowulf. Brave seafarers driving over the dark ocean shall behold it from afar, and, remembering, marvel at my deeds. Thus he spoke, and, fumbling for the gold chain that hung at his neck, with ice-cold quivering fingers pressed it upon Wiglaf, and beside it his gleaming boar's head helmet, his gold ring and mailcoat, bidding him use them well. Dear cousin, you are the last of our line, the noble Wegmundings, royal house of Sweden. The rest has fate swept to their doom. Princes, proud warriors, great kings in their glory. all to their doom. Now I follow after. Then valiant spirit passed from the body, winging to heaven. And here we can see those last moments of Beowulf's life, at the entrance to the cave, with Wiglaf and his water, as they stand together. And in the trees of the surrounding forest, the other members of the group, those who failed their king, looking on with shame. And noble Wiglaf, unmanned by grief, his heart near to breaking, looked down at his master, while the coward warriors, their cheeks smarting with shame, one by one, crept from the forest, bringing their shields and armor where the dead king lay. In troubled silence they watched, as Wiglaf, in vain endeavour to revive him, dashed water in his face. But no mortal man can change the will of God. For all his bitter longing, the youth could not bring him back. Suddenly he rounded upon them. Fierce love for his lord flashed into rage, his words lashed like a whip. A fine requital this for all his gifts in the mead hall. To think he called you brave, the flower of warriors, that you swore to protect him. What mockery that was! Why, with your help we could have plucked him from the fire. Oh, grimly, grimly was this treasure won. No, your fingers must not soil it. You shall be stripped of your rights, outlawed from our love. Better a man should die than live a coward's life. They answered not a word, but shambled away, their faces, for all their crimson shame, blank as white walls, as if they cared no more for anything in the world. Sadly, to the Whale's headland, the people came to gaze on their dead king. Through tears they beheld him, the valiant hero, wrapped in his mailcoat of blood. On the smoky grass beside him, over 50 feet outspread, the charred dragon, consumed in his own fire. Never again would he, on wings of flame, wheel through the darkness, burning with his breath, laying waste the land. Round him were scattered flagons and goblets of gold, many a sword, rusty with long lying in the tomb of the earth. Oh, accursed was that treasure, bought with the king's life. Grim was the bargain. The dragon's cumbrous body, with straining shoulder, together they shoved to the cliff edge and heaved over. Whistling down the air, far below, it struck the ocean. The wave swallowed it, the flood tide washed it away. But Beowulf, the grey-haired warrior, with hands of love they lifted and to the whale's headland tenderly carried him. And they raised him a funeral pyre, staked firmly in the ground and hung with helmets, with shield and shining mailcoat, such ornament of war as he had most desired. On the high summit they laid him, the matchless hero, their beloved king, and with the pinewood torches soaked in turpentine kindled the wood. The fire flickered, the timber crackled, and a strong wind fanned the blaze, till, lo, all heaven was roaring flame, ravenous lips licking, loudly devouring the body of Beowulf, hot to the heart. But louder was the noise of weeping, a nation lamenting her leader, an aged wife in deep anguish and dread of lonely days, bewailing her loss. And the wild sea wind was hushed. In the morning, a huge mound they heaped upon his ashes, as Beowulf had bidden, a peak upon the whale's headland, wide and lofty, that brave seafarers driving over the dark ocean might behold it from afar and cry, "Look, yonder, the mound of Beowulf, the hero." And, remembering, marvel at his deeds. 10 days they laboured to build it and raise about the rim a rampart of boulders, burying the treasure beneath. Jewelled flagons, gold rings and goblets, all that wonder of wealth, for there was a curse upon it. No man dared keep it. Then 12 warriors, proud heirs of noblemen, rode their horses about the mound, loudly praising their lord for his valiant deeds. Oh, it is fitting that a man should praise his dead master and lock him in his heart. So did these warriors. Of all the kings in the world, Beowulf they named the highest in valour, in his ways the mildest, most kind to his people, and keenest for praise. And at the very close of our tale, we can see here the mound of Beowulf, with its stone wall surrounding it, and its treasure lying forever beneath it. That's it for our tale of Beowulf the warrior. And to the end of our time together today. I hope that you have enjoyed this tale. It's one of which I have been culturally aware for many years, but had never sought out to read myself, to my great shame. I'm so glad that I have now had this opportunity to see the story told in such a beautiful way, and so glad also that I got to share it with you. Thank you again for joining me and Pepper as we read through Beowulf. I hope to see you again, soon, on the next Soft Stories. But until next we meet, I wish you all the best, and goodbye.